Okay, today's focus is on text structure. Text structure, it's the way a text or passage is organized. Once again, knowing how something that you are reading is organized puts everything into an organizational pattern and helps you make sense of what you read. Just think about your house or your room. If it's organized, you can find things easier. If it's chaotic and things are just everywhere with no type of place, or home for your items, it's harder to make sense of your surroundings. 5 types of text structure. Now we will be talking about each of these. So we have comparison, problem and solution, cause and effect, sequence, and description. The first one that we're going to look at and talk about is description. Description gives you descriptive details. Okay, you see the word describe in description, right? So descriptive details are being used to describe a specific topic. So this is one way that an author will organize the writing. The key words that help you say, oh, this is description is like, for instance, another, in particular, to illustrate. Let's look at an example of description here. A butterfly doesn't have teeth. Instead, it eats by using its proboscis, which is a tongue that works like a straw. Most butterflies feed on nectar from flowers, but some like rotting fruit and tree sap. Notice that it is describing how it eats, really. How it doesn't have teeth, how it uses it's like a tongue that works like a straw, and what it feeds on. So read each of the following titles and make a prediction based on the titles. Which passage do you think will be organized as a description? Remember, describe, right? Text structure. So we have A, music genres of the 90s, B, the wonders of Yellowstone Park, or C, how to make a shadow puppet. Write your answer real quickly. And the answer is B, the wonders of Yellowstone Park. Just by looking at that title, it gives the idea that it's going to describe what's so wonderful, right, about Yellowstone Park. The next one is comparison or compare and contrast. It can be called either way. In a comparison, compares usually is when you compare two things and how they're alike. When you contrast, is what you're telling how they are different. So the text is organized in a way that you can look at 2 or more things to compare, again, how they're similar, or to contrast, how they're different. Keywords that will give you a clue that this is a comparison or compare and contrast text structure. They'll use words like unlike, same, different, opposed to, rather, as well as, or similar. Here's an example of compare and contrast text structure. It is pretty easy to tell the difference between a bee and a wasp. A wasp is thinner and more aggressive than a bee. Bees are plumper and not as aggressive. Wasps will usually hover around food and garbage, whereas bees are more interested in flowers. So you will notice, obviously they are comparing and contrasting the bee to a wasp. Okay, and even in the writing here it says it's easy to tell the difference. Difference is a key word. Okay, and it says the wasp is more aggressive than, right, than a bee. And another key word is whereas. It says whereas bees are more interested in flowers. Those are key words that tell you, hey, this is compare and contrast. So look at these following titles and make a prediction. Which passage do you think will be organized as a compare and contrast text structure? Saving the Elephants, Supersized Pumpkins, Who Should Be President? based on the title, I would predict that this answer would be C, because it's who should be present. Obviously, they're going to compare more than one person, compare and contrast. The next text structure is sequence. Sequence. So that organizes steps or events that take place over time or in order. Again, keywords that give you a clue that this is sequence. You can usually see the words first, second, third, before, after, finally, then, next, earlier. So those are some of the key words. Here's an example passage for sequence text structure. When writing a thank you note, first express your appreciation for their thoughtfulness. Next, mention the present by name. Tell how much you like it or how you plan to use it in the future. Write in your best handwriting. Finally, reread the message to check for any errors before sending it off. So you should have noticed that the words first, next, and finally give an order, give a sequence. Okay, your turn to try. Read each of the following titles and make a prediction. Based on these titles, which do you think will be organized as a sequence text structure? Music genres of the 90s, classroom manners, how to make a shadow puppet. All right, you guessed it. The answer is C, how to make a shadow puppet. Now let's look at problem and solution. That kind of tells you what it is in the name there, but it's going to highlight or give a problem and then offer a solution or more than one solution to the problem. There are some key words to look for in the writing. Words like problem, issue, since, as a result, solution, leads to. So let's look at this example. How do caterpillars adapt to survive? Okay, right there. Boom, there's your problem. You know, caterpillars need to adapt to survive. Many caterpillars rely on camouflage to avoid being seen. Some look like their backgrounds, whether a twig, leaf, or flower. Others have bright colors to tell predators that they taste bad. Some caterpillars even have false legs or eyes to confuse predators. Okay, so immediately it gave us the problem, and that usually happens in a problem and solution text structure. And then there were several solutions here. Camouflage, bright colors to indicate that they taste bad, or false legs or false eyes. Here are 3 choices of titles for you to make a prediction of which is a problem and solution text structure. Again, we have music genres of the 90s, endangered animals of the Amazon, how to make a shadow puppet. So out of these choices, the best answer would be B, endangered animals of the Amazon. And our last text structure is cause and effect. The cause and effect will show causes that trigger certain events to happen. So you will most certainly see keywords like as a result, or because, or since, consequently, for this reason, or if and then. So here is another example, this time of a cause and effect text structure. The wind speed during a hurricane can reach up to 200 miles per hour. These high winds can cause damage to buildings and land. Hurricanes also cause the water to rise and huge waves to hit the coast. These waves and high water levels, called storm surges, cause erosion. Erosion is the breakdown of the land. Just a thing right here, this last sentence, they gave you a definition, right? If you weren't sure what erosion was, they gave the definition there in the writing. But again, it said these waves and high water levels, called storm surges, what do? They cause erosion. So you have causes that trigger events to happen. The waves, the high water levels will cause erosion, damage to buildings and land. So let's see how you do on this one. Read each of the following titles to make the prediction of which is organized as a cause and effect text structure. We have Saving the Elephants, the Alabama Tornado Disaster, the Civil Rights Movement. The answer here is C, the Civil Rights Movement. So I can tell that it's not the Alabama Tornado Disaster because it's talking about a certain thing, probably a story there. The Civil Rights Movements will probably list certain events that triggered the effects. Okay, certain causes that would trigger the effects. All right, we are going to watch a fun video. I think you will like it on text structures, and it may help you remember these 5.
Much like buildings, text, especially informational and non-fiction text, have to be structurally sound, or else they'll fall over. You feel me? Yeah. Let's get it. Let's go! When you read informational text, you see the pattern in the way that it's written, oh yes. There are 5 main structures you can check. Find the structure and they get less complex. Let's flex and break down all 5. Follow me, the text structure mastermind. This first text structure is called description. It describes the topic and its characteristics. You'll see such as and, for example, and details and adjectives like in this sample. The famous Leaning Tower of Pisa is located in Italy. Mamma mia! It stands over 180 feet tall, tilted 4 degrees like it's starting to fall. That's description. The author described the tower, so you have the image in your mind. Now peep this, the structure called sequence. It gives events from way back to most recent. Construction began in 1173, but it was halted when war was decreed. Building stopped for a while, then resumes many years later in 1272. Sequence contains dates and the words next and before, first, second, and third. Cause and effect is another way to organize. It's when authors tell what happened and why. Soft soil made the tower settle unevenly. As a result, it leaned increasingly. Builders tried to balance it with more floors, but due to extra weight, it leans even more. Words like because, since, if, then, due to mean the cause and effect is coming right to you. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause and effect. We can compare and contrast all day, all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause and effect. We can compare and contrast all day, all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. If you heard the hook, you already know there's 2 more text structures to go. Sometimes an author introduces a problem and then explains how somebody solved it. The tower leans more with each passing century. The tilt increased to more than 5 degrees. The people feared it would collapse into ruins. Now we know the problem. What's the solution? Earth was removed from under the monument, and weights were added to balance out the top of it. They corrected the lean, at least a little bit. That's problem and solution, not a riddle, kid. Just look out for the words involved. Since question, problem, solution, and solve. I got another text you don't have to ask, and it's text structure, compare and contrast. It explains how things are different and the same with the words in bold I'm about to say. Both the Tower of Pisa's construction and the Washington Monument saw destruction. The Washington Monument, named after George, had construction paused for the Civil War. Like the Leaning Tower, it took years to finish, but the purposes of the buildings were different. One was erected as a church bell's tower, while the other honored a founding father. There we compared the 2 different towers. That's 5 text structures in a 16th of an hour. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause and effect. We can compare and contrast all day, all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet. In text, I find description, I find sequence, cause and effect. We can compare and contrast all day, all day. There's a problem and solution, I bet.